All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is June 4th. We got ourselves a Sunday jam-packed of MLB games. We're going to jump into each and every game. I'll give you my lean. We'll talk about the games, but all my final plays will be in the pinned comment. We are still away from home right now, so this will be the last video that we do kind of with the makeshift setup and everything like that. But nonetheless, hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Let's jump into it. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. It might be a little quicker than normal because we are behind schedule, but it is what it is. We're making do with what we have. First game on the slate is going to be the Pirates taking on the Cardinals here. Pirates actually looking good thus far through this series, one would say. Taking 4 wins in a row here. And I've already said this Cardinals team a little bit more inconsistent than we would like. This Pirates team kind of putting that on full display. 2 games in a row now. 7-5 victory and then 4-3 victory. In terms of where we're leaning today, though, I do think that this is a Cardinals spot. I don't think the Pirates pull out 3 in a row. It is an early game as well, so it's a little weird. So I'm going to lean towards the Cardinals in this one. I see that a lot of the money, 87% of the money right now is on the Cardinals as well. So we're kind of following the money here. And then in terms of a total, 8.5 runs. We haven't seen the St. Louis offense really completely show up in, I don't want to say in quite some time now, but really in quite some time. Like, 5 runs is in their last 10 games or so is one of the bigger scoring outputs. So I do think that they're going to win the game, meaning I think they're going to have to keep this Pirates team down to a minimum of runs. So I'm going to lean towards the under 8.5. Next game, we have the Nationals taking on the Phillies. Trevor Williams on the mound for the Nationals. Phillies have Ranger Suarez on the mound. Nationals having, getting the loss yesterday, Phillies come back in that one, win that 4-2. Right now, Nationals on the money line are plus 136 dogs at home. So far in these 2 games, 8-7 win by the Nationals, and then the Phillies win 4-2. I think these teams are very, very similar, so I think there's value in taking the Nationals on the money line at home. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to see if that does become a final play, but that's where we're going to lean right now. And then in terms of a total 9 runs, these 2 pitchers can let up a bunch of runs at any given moment. I'm going to lean towards the over ever so slightly. Trevor Williams, yes, he's been good and he's been hot and cold this season, but Ranger Suarez, on the other hand, letting up plenty of runs. His ERA is kind of inflated, I should say, but nonetheless, he still is a pitcher that can let up plenty of runs. All right, moving on, we get the Red Sox taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We pretty much called that perfectly yesterday. Red Sox are our final play for Game 1, right? And I said, okay, they'll win the first game and lose the second game. Exactly what happened. So we like to see that. In this one here, the Red Sox are plus 105 dogs at home in Game 3 of the series. Obviously, the doubleheader being yesterday. Tanner Houck on the mound for the Red Sox today. He's got a 5.3 ERA, and Taj Bradley on the mound for the Rays with a 3.6 ERA. I'm a Red Sox fan. I still think this Rays team is better. I'm going to lean in that direction. You're getting minus 118 odds over on FanDuel right now, which I do think are decent odds. And then in terms of a total, 9.5 runs. This Red Sox, they've been consistent when it comes to scoring. At the beginning of the year, I remember, oh my God, we're going to take every over with this team because they're scoring so many runs. They did score 8 runs, and then let up 5 in Game 1 yesterday. And then in game, I think it was the last game of the Cincinnati series, Red Sox scored a bunch of runs as well, right? But then they go and score 2 runs yesterday. So I think that 9.5 is just a little inflated. If this was 8.5, I'd probably pull the trigger on the over, but it's 9.5, so I'm going to lean towards the under here, thinking that this game maybe sticks right around 9 runs. I'm not all that confident in it, so I doubt that becomes a final play, but that is the direction we're going to lean in as of right now. Make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment, see if we do end up rolling with that one. Moving on, we got the Reds taking on the Brewers. The Brewers catch the win yesterday. They've now won 2 in a row against the Cincinnati team. They won 5-4, and then yesterday they won 10-8. On the mound for the Reds today is going to be Ben Lively. He's 3-2 with a 1.99 ERA. Adrian Hauser on the mound for the Brewers, 4.07 ERA and a 1-1 record. This might be a cycle alert type game. This is pretty much a pick 'em right now. No one's a favorite, no one's a underdog here, but I think the Reds actually come back and win this one after losing 2 straight in this series. And the total, I think, is way too high. I think it's an overreaction to what we saw yesterday, 10-8. Yes, both these pitchers can let up plenty of runs, and the offense at times can get going. Okay, I get it. But 10 runs, asking for 11 runs out of these 2 teams that, prior to this series, the Brewers were scoring, 2 to 3 runs a game. I just can't really see that coming out too strong. So I'm going to lean towards under 10 runs in that game as well. This is a game where, if you were on the Brewers or the over, I'd be like, okay, fine, I'm not going to try and talk you out of that in the comments. So if you came here looking for any sort of validation with those plays, don't act like me saying, it's the under and the red side of things. I'm not really going to sit here and be like, oh, those are the correct picks, because this is a game that, I'm just kind of thinking that the Brewers don't win 3 straight against the Reds. That's kind of the only, thought process going on. So this isn't one that I'm, 110% lock it in, we're hammering it. No. Marlins taking on the A's, and I know we're flying through this, but like I said, we got to get the video out. Marlins, big-time favorites at home, obviously. They've won 2 in a row now. Sandy Alcantara on the mound for them, and Blackburn on the mound for the Athletics. Paul Blackburn, what a name. In terms of what we're looking at here for odds, Marlins minus 230. Obviously, that makes sense. You can't really look at this and say anything other than a Marlins spot for a parlay. Now, they won 4-0 in Game 1, and we were like, oh, man, they blew them out, huh? They went 12-1 yesterday. So this A's team, you know they're just going to A's all up and down the season here. So I'm going to lean towards the Marlins only if we have any sort of parlay. We don't parlay all that much, so it's not necessarily going to be a final play. And then in terms of the total 7.5 runs, this is tough because you're pretty much just betting on the Marlins here to score a bunch of runs, and then maybe the A's give you a couple, which I think is going to happen today. Sandy Alcantara just has not had his best stuff this year. Now, do I think that he goes out there and gets torched or blown up? No. I think it's actually a get-right spot for Sandy Alcantara. I'll be looking at his player props as well today to see if we can pull the trigger or anything there, but nonetheless, I don't think that he's been holding, as bad of any offense that he's pitches against, he's not really holding them down, so if he's played like Colorado, 3 runs through 6 innings. San Francisco before that, 4 runs through 5 innings. Just hasn't really had the best season, so maybe he lets the A's kind of get to him today. Next up, we got the Mets taking on the Blue Jays here. The Blue Jays coming off of, or I shouldn't say coming off of, the Blue Jays have been more inconsistent than I'd like them to be. Now, they're coming off of a couple wins. And Kikichi's on the mound today for them. I do like that, but I don't necessarily think that the value is there. This Mets team at home, at minus 125, I feel like the Blue Jays, based on what we've seen in this series, should be sort of, like they were in, game 1, plus 115 or so. You're not really seeing that here. So I would lean towards the Blue Jays, but I feel like the Mets are just going to kind of win this one at home. They've lost 2 straight at home, close-ish games as well, right? So this is like a Mets spot, in my opinion. I just wish you had some underdog value in the Blue Jays today, which you don't really. Senga on the mound for the Mets, 5-3 with 3.44 ERA. I would say that slight lean, especially at home, right there. But I wish this Blue Jays team was like plus 120-ish, and I'd probably pull the trigger there. So I'm kind of on the fence in this one. I don't think the Blue Jays are all that worth it at plus 110, but once you start splitting hairs at odds, sometimes you just got to go with your big old gut and say, okay, which team do I think is going to win this game? I think that this is a Mets spot. Kind of goes against what I wanted to happen, odds-wise and game-wise, but I think the Mets don't lose 3 straight in a row. In terms of a total 8.5, we saw 2 extremely low-scoring games thus far. If the Blue Jays are going to get out of this, the Mets are going to kind of break this streak and break the slump here, I guess that everything's going to flip on its head, so I lean towards the over. All right, the Twins taking on the Guardians. Tough one to see yesterday. Thought we had this one won. Twins money line. They ended up losing 4-2 here on the mound for the Twins today's Joe Ryan. 7-2 with 2.77 ERA. Then Tristan McKenzie on the mound for the Guardians here. I do think that this is obviously a twin spot. I just have to be able to justify the minus 155 odds. They're coming off the loss in which they definitely could have won that game. They have, a good pitcher on the mound in Joe Ryan. I have to be able to justify the minus 155 odds. So I'm going to lean towards the Twins and figure out later if I can swallow the minus 155 odds. In terms of a total, 7.5 runs. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't look at the under here. It is a low number, but we saw a 1-0 game and a 2-4 game as of late. Now the first game in the series, 7-6. Whatever, I'm throwing that out because that isn't even like the Twins or the Guardians as of late either. Both these teams have struggled to score runs, right? So I pump the brakes there and I say, even though it's a really, really low total, I'm going to take a peek at the under. All right, the Rockies taking on the Royals in this one here. Rockies, yet again, underdogs against the Royals. And what do I keep saying? If a team's going to be the underdog against the Royals, I'm going to lean in that direction with little research done. Maybe it's a dumb move, but it's been paying off so far. The Rockies, game 1, plus 105 underdogs, 7-2 win. Yesterday, plus 135 underdogs, 6-4 win. I don't see why this Royals team should be really favored against anybody in this league. So I'm going to lean towards the Rockies here for some plus money. They have Freeland on the mound. Don't hate that either. Then in terms of the total, we're looking at 9.5 runs here. Now, yes, we've seen, like I just said, the Rockies kind of going out there and doing their thing, putting up a bunch of runs, right? 7-2, 6-4, right around like this 9.5 number. So I'm going to lean towards the under here because I don't think that the Rockies are going to keep up the 7-run, 6-run pace. So I'm leaning towards the under. All right, the White Sox are taking on the Tigers here. White Sox favored in this one pretty heavily with Michael Kopech on the mound. They've won 2 straight here. Minus 163 are the odds. I just can't really justify that being worth it. Yes, this Detroit team went on a little bit of streak. Now they're on a slide. but minus 160, minus 170 actually on most sports books for the White Sox is way too much. So I'm going to lean towards the Tigers because I can't pay that for the White Sox. I don't think they're that good, right? So I'm going to lean towards the Tigers in this one for plus 150 odds. I actually think this could be a final play just with the long shot aspect of it. Then in terms of a total 8.5 runs, 8.5 too high, going towards the under. All right, the Astros taking on the Angels here in this one. Astros looking good to start the series, 2 straight as well. But the money is on the Angels side this time, or the money is on the Angels, and I like the money that we're getting in return. So right now, the public betting is on the Astros, but all the money, 90% of the money, at least through this morning, are on the Angels. So I like that, and they've lost 3 straight. Does Houston really pull this 4-0 sweep? Maybe, but I'm going to follow the money, guys, and for some plus 130 odds, I do like that spot. In terms of who's pitching, J.P. France on the mound for the Astros, 101 with a 4 flat ERA, and then Griffin Canning on the mound for the Angels. Middle-of-the-road guy this season so far, so I'm going to lean towards them, hoping he can kind of step it up today. All right, Rangers taking on the Mariners. Rangers minus 148 across most sports books here. Mariners coming off 2 straight losses, obviously, and I think this Rangers team is worth that price today. They've looked pretty good, 2-0. They won that game, and then yesterday they won the game 16-6. This Rangers offense hopefully is back, and you have Eovaldi on the mound. Now, Bryce Miller on the mound for the Mariners, I do like him, but I really think Eovaldi has been playing well. 7-2 with a 2.42 ERA this year. I think you have some decent odds there, and I think that it's a fair price at minus 145-ish for the Rangers today. So I'm going to lean there. And then in terms of a total 8 runs, I know Eovaldi. I'm saying he's going to shut down this Mariners team and whatnot, but this Rangers offense can always put up a bunch of runs no matter what. So 8 runs, I think there's some value there as well at minus 110 over on DraftKings. I'm going to lean towards the over. All right, Baltimore taking on the Giants here. Baltimore, we've kind of gone back and forth on this one, right? I keep saying, you know what, the Giants should not be this big of favorites. And then they go and win 4-0 yesterday. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's the case. But now we're going into a game in which this is pretty much a pick 'em. Minus 110 on Caesars for the Giants, and then minus 104 on FanDuel for Baltimore. I'm going to trust kind of my initial thoughts on this game here and lean towards the pitching of the Orioles. Tyler Wells, 3-2 with a 3.29 ERA. I'm going to take him over DeSclafani on the mound for the Giants here. So I like Baltimore in a very slight lean here. If they were plus money, I'll tell you, like, pull back the curtain in my brain. If they were even plus 105, I'd be like, boom, lock it in. The fact that they are, you know, a standard sort of implied odds 50-50 type thing today, I'm kind of, you know, on the fence about it. I don't hate them on the run line in some sort of a parlay. Not the best of odds, but I think they can keep this one close. And then in terms of the total 8 runs here, both these games obviously have been under, but maybe the lids come off today. Very, very, and I say very, underscore, italicized, bolded, underscore, italicized, bolded. All caps too. I think I'm going to lean towards the over here. I think the lids come off, but I'm very kind of fringe leaning that one. All right, Diamondbacks taking on the Braves. Diamondbacks coming off of that loss last night. On the mound today, Zach Gallen, 7-2 with a 2.72 ERA. Soroka on the mound for the Braves. You have some serious, you know, juice if you want to go on the Braves side of things. This is obviously coming down to the pitching side because Braves are, well, I guess I would say, are a better team than the Diamondbacks. Even though the Diamondbacks were on quite the streak before yesterday's loss, right? So, kind of tough to see that, but I don't think that minus 135 is a good spot for the Diamondbacks against a Braves offense that is good. Yes, the Diamondbacks had the clear-cut better pitcher today, which makes sense why these odds are. I'm not arguing with the odds. I'm arguing where the value is. I think the value might still be on the Braves here. I think a lot of people are going to be on Gallen in the Diamondbacks today because it makes sense. You're like, who's that guy pitching for the Braves, right? Braves are still the better team, in my opinion, at least offensively. So I'm leaning towards the Braves at plus 120 odds over on DraftKings. Really good value. Then in terms of a total 8.5 runs, so far in this series, we saw a 3-2 game and a 5-2 game, and we do have a good pitcher on the mound today for the Diamondbacks. I'm going to lean towards the under, thinking that this one could be like a 4-2 type finish for in favor of the Braves. A couple games left on the slate. We're looking at the Cubs taking on the Padres. Cubs coming off the loss yesterday. We got to stop betting the Cubs. We got to stop betting the Cubs. They lose 6-0. I'm going to lean towards the Padres just because, like, you know, I can't have tunnel vision on these Cubs. But I also don't think the value is there for the Cubs today whatsoever. On the mound for the Padres, Ryan Weathers. Nothing smart or big there. But Marcus Stroman here. Everything in my brain is like, bet the Cubs. Stroman, decent odds, but I cannot do it because I continue to bet the Cubs. So we got to take a day off, even though this is a good spot. So I'm going to lean towards the Padres, and then I'm also going to take a peek at the under here, 8.5 runs. All right, Dodgers taking on the Yankees. I think this one's going to be a good game, as we've seen, just so far in this series, right? Yankees getting the win yesterday. Like I told you, as I said, Garrett Cole. If Garrett Cole's in the mound, you can lean the Yankees, even if they are, underdogs or anything like that, and goes out there, pitches well, 6-3 final there. On the mound today, a couple lesser than pitchers. Dodgers have Bobby Miller going 2-0 with a 1.64 ERA. And then Domingo Germán on the mound for the Yanks, 3-3 with a 3.93 ERA. Minus 145 the odds right now for the Dodgers. That is the direction I'm going to lean in. I'm overpaying if I do make that a final play, and so are you. This should probably be like a Dodgers minus 125 type spot, but I think the Dodgers do take game 3 here in this one, so I'm admitting that we're overpaying there, but that's the direction that I'm going to lean in. Guys, that is going to wrap it up for the baseball video. Today we're going to have the NBA Finals Game 2 video shortly as well, so make sure to go check that out. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I know we blew through this game, or through this slate, but we got to make do with what we have in the setup that we have. So if you guys do enjoy it, we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.